Okay, so I've got my AutoCAD drawing there to a point where I've got enough of the ground floor, and then now I want to go on to draw the first floor, and then go on to do the section, or the elevation. But I think we'll do the section first because that's more important. And do you know the order that drawings should be? Really? There's a good little thing to remember. Plans, then sections, then elevations. And there's a good reason for that. You can nearly always work out the elevations if you've got the plans and the sections done. But you can't always go the other way. If you do the plans and then the elevations, you can't always then go to do the sections because you won't have enough information to do the interior heights. But if you've done the section, then normally you can get all the heights for the elevation. So that's normally the way you do it. Plans, then sections, then elevations. And you'll see that comes up. There's even a book series called Plans, Sections and Elevations, where they give you, those drawings for a lot of classic buildings. And I've got a few different books from that series. They're brilliant if you're looking for some books to buy, and they have a CD of AutoCAD files of all of those classic buildings. So, all the classic architects, they have a lot of their buildings. Okay, so think about it that way. Plans, then sections, elevations. So, looking at the drawing set that we've got, we've been so far working off the printout, and that's something that you need to practice and get used to. But what I might show you now is that you can actually insert PDFs. Has anyone tried that in AutoCAD? So it's a good option, but it's a fairly new feature, and it's still not perfect, and I wouldn't recommend using it most of the time. It's still not quite there. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't really, and I've tested it with this file and it doesn't really work all that well with this file. So, if you can't insert the PDFs, there's a better option, and that's to insert a copy of the PDF that you've turned into an image format, like a JPEG. So do you know how to make a JPEG from a PDF file? Okay, so yeah, that's right. You normally would export it, but what I wanted to show you here is that if I go to the File menu, there's no option to export. So anyone would be brave and guess why there's no export on the File menu? Yeah, you're on the right track. It's the program.
Is it an older version of the program?
Well, it's a different version. So this is Adobe Acrobat Reader, not Pro. So
that makes a lot more sense.
yeah. So I'll minimise that and I'll just show you. I opened it just by double clicking. Right, and so then someone has set the default program to open PDFs as Acrobat Reader, which is the free version anyone can download. But do most of you have the Adobe Creative Cloud suite? So with that, you get Acrobat Pro. Right, so to open with Acrobat Pro, if you've got both programs installed, you need to right-click on your file, go to Open With, and Pro is the one that doesn't say Reader in the name. And if you haven't started using Acrobat Pro, trust me, it's a million times better than Reader. I don't use Reader ever unless I really have to. So again, right-click on the file and then go to Open With, and it should be Adobe Acrobat DC. And that can also help you in here because a lot of other students don't know this. They're supposed to, but some of them don't pay attention. And then they set it to open with things like Edge or Chrome or something, because those programs can open PDFs as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when you double-click on a PDF file, you might see it open with Edge. But then as long as you know you can always right-click and go to Open With, then you can choose the program you want it to open with.
And then you pick the first one.
Yeah, Acrobat. Yeah, Adobe Acrobat DC. Yeah, that's it. So now, when I go to the File menu, there's the option to export to, image, JPEG. So do you know about the difference between these different formats? Why you should use one rather than the other? So I'll just explain it a little bit, because you probably have all seen these formats before when you download things.
Some of these are commonly used with Macs as well.
Of course, they're common across all platforms. So these formats can be used with any operating system, Unix or Linux even. They can all use them. So, and Linux is, I use Linux a bit, and it's a good operating system. Mac OS, of course, is good, and it can use them too. So when you go to export to, here you can just choose JPEG, but then you may have seen PNG if you look at the formats that things on the web use. Just think of PNG as the new JPEG. It's like a new and improved JPEG, really. So it's actually a really good format, but it's not maybe as compatible with things as JPEGs are. So if it's just for your own use, JPEGs are fine. But sometimes PNGs will give you some extra options. And then the final one is TIFF. So if you want the highest quality possible, then use TIFF. But just remember, it'll generally be a much bigger file. Yeah. Yeah. So for print, you generally want to use TIFF. And again, just be prepared for the file being bigger. But again, this is just for our use. I'm not going to print these JPEGs from where I'm going to use them from AutoCAD. So JPEG is fine. Okay, and then I'm going to copy them. I'm going to export them into the folder that I've made for you on the P drive called AutoCAD Resources. I'm just going to click Save. So you can get those JPEGs from there now. And if we look at that folder, you're going to see it's made a JPEG file for each page. Right, so it's a really useful thing, because you often do want a JPEG copy of the things in the PDF. Yeah, so a lot of people I see snipping each page or doing lots of things like that, yeah. So this can save you a lot of time and effort, having that option. So, yeah, unfortunately, Microsoft have done some great things recently, but Photos is not one of them. Photo Gallery is a little bit better, and at least you can flick through. So there we are. So there's the there's the files. Yes, yep.
Is there an option that you can do that, like to JPEG or PNG?
What do you mean to?
Like when you split the files up?
Yeah.
Or is that the same?
JPEGs already will be. So JPEG is just one page. So you can't have multiple pages, so they'll automatically be split up for each page. Yeah, but it's a good point. So let's say you do want to break up your PDF pages. That's a good thing to look at quickly. So if you go to the Tools option here, and then Organise Pages, and you've got all sorts of options for moving your pages around, deleting pages you don't want, or inserting new pages. That's the best way to organise the pages in the PDF file. So anyhow, so I've got my JPEGs, and then what I really need to show you then is how to scale them once they've come into AutoCAD. So to insert them, I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and then you'll see it's the Attach button that you use to insert files like JPEGs into AutoCAD. There's a special button for PDF import, which you can use as well, but it's better just to use Attach. Oh yeah, and just make sure you realise there's another button that says Attach, but notice it's got this sort of cloud symbol on it, and that might remind you it's for point clouds. Have any of you heard about point clouds?
No.
So you know about 3D scanners?
Yeah.
And so that's a big new area.
Wow.
My phone has one, and people are sending drones up to do 3D scans of cities and big buildings. And so what they produce is this point cloud. That's a big 3D model with lots of points in 3D. Yeah, so AutoCAD can work with those, right? And so point clouds are a great thing, but that's not what we want here. So just make sure that's good to remind you. Point clouds are good, but we don't want that button with the clouds for this. It's just the Attach button with the paperclip on it. So click on that, and then I'm going to browse to the P drive, Interior Design, and then your folder, BD1 Viscom 2, AutoCAD Resources. I know the JPEG files are there, but why can't I see them? Exactly, that's good, exactly, that's right. So yeah, that's good. If you're keeping or your eye out for that sort of thing, that's really good. So down the bottom, just change that to all image files, and then you will see image files. Okay, so we've already drawn what's on the second page. I'm not going to worry about the first page. So we've already drawn what's on the second page, but I'm going to show you how to insert it anyway, so I can show you how to scale it to match what I've drawn. So I'm going to double click, and then make sure you take note of the options that you have here. So you've got two really important options. You've got insertion point and then scale. We're not going to rotate it, so I'm going to leave that unticked. But I'm going to make sure that scale, so I'm going to untick the scale option as well, but then I'm going to type in 1,000. You'll see in a minute why. That's just as a starting point. So it's 1,000 times bigger than the original, which is what we need. And then the insertion point, I'm just going to leave that ticked. So now I'll click OK, and then zooming out, and actually, sorry, this doesn't need to be 1,000. Sometimes that's helpful, but in this case, actually, it's too big. I'm going to go back and just do that again, and I'll make the scale, I'll leave the scale at 1. That's okay. So, again, unticked, leave it at 1, but then make sure insertion point is ticked, click OK, and yeah, it's still too small, so a little bit of scale would have been good, but I'll fix it. So here you can see I'm going to click to place it.
That's because it's at 100 scale.
Exactly.
So if you made that to 100, would that be the same as...
That's right, it should work. It should work if you put the scale in theory, but you can't be sure of that. So that's the first thing to try. I'm going to scale it by 100 and see what I get. But I want to show you how to scale it no matter what the size is as well. So, but yeah, you got the right idea. So because I made this originally, I know that it is at 1 to 100, and you can even tell visually when you look at it there. Yeah, but we know it's an A3 page. So think about how big the building is. How big would a piece of A3 paper be in relation to this building? It'd be about that size. So we can probably already tell it is the right size. But it doesn't hurt to double check. So to investigate it a little bit, I'm just going to zoom in and then measure with the ruler. And I might just start by measuring the page. In other words, measuring the border. And you can see there. Can you read that measurement? Maybe a bit hard to see. Anyhow, it says 420.28. So it's 420 mil. And then going the other way, 297.18. So it's the size of an A3 page already. So what Lucy was saying already, that if you scale it by 100, that should make it the right size, is totally correct. So I'm going to try that, and here I've selected the image already. I'm going to click Scale. Then it'll ask me to choose a base point, so I'll do that. And then type in the scale factor, which is 100. Okay, so now I'm going to measure something inside the plan. So I'm going to use the measure tool, and then I might measure maybe the stairs. So how wide should stairs be normally, do you think? That's a wide one. Yeah, there are stairs that are that wide. Yeah, about a metre to 1,200, yeah, and so that's what it is there. So that gives us a pretty good idea already that it's the right size. Now, what I think I might do actually is leave it at that for the scaling, because I'll show you later, you can scale anything from any initial size, but that's a bit more involved. So I'll show you that another time. But with this one, you know that you can just scale it like I've shown you and it'll work. So now I'm going to move it. I've selected it. But then notice it gives you a new tab when you select an image. It's a tab just for images. But I want the move command, so I've got to go back to the home tab and click move. And I might then zoom right in to find the corner of the building. Right, so that point there. Actually, this will show the way you're thinking. Where do you think we should click on these lines? Because when we zoom right in, we can see the line thickness. So whereabouts on that line should you click to pick things up? Exactly, that's right, you're thinking the right way. And it's amazing. People who were trained before computers don't think that way. They think the line has an edge, and I've taught old guys like this who think that you should pick it up from the edge of the line. And like really experienced architects sometimes think that way. And so with hand-drawn drawings, you sometimes need to do it like that. But if it's done with a computer like this, then always use the centre of the line. That's really important. And so now I'm going to zoom out and find the point on my drawing that I want to snap it to. Click there and okay, so I've got my image now over the top of my lines, and I want to put it now to the background. And so remember, it's not like Photoshop. So in Photoshop, the layers stack up on top of each other. So the higher layers cover the layers that are underneath. But AutoCAD doesn't work that way. So the layers are irrelevant when it comes to the order that you see things. Like the layers are for other things. So to make things go to the back, you just need to select them, right click, and then go to draw order, and you'll see you've got the options there to send things backwards or forwards. So here I'm just going to choose send to back, and now my line work goes over the top. That's it. So then I'm going to bring back my other layers that I turned off before, demo and above. And we'll see there that I actually have probably scaled off a little bit incorrectly, so it gives us a chance to fix these things. So that's fine. I'm going to just select this dashed line, and here I'll go to move again, pick it up virtually anywhere, move to the right, and see what the measurement is telling me. So it's telling me there it's 400 and something, 430 we'll say. But I'm not just going to click to place it, I'm going to then type in 430. So that way it won't be 430.157 millimetres. We don't want those little fractions of a millimetre. So it's always good to type in measurements if you can. It's in your interest to be precise because it makes it easier to work with the drawing later. So then I'll maybe make a new layer and call it image. And then I'll select the edge of my image again. And again go back to the Home tab and choose image now for my layers panel. So that way I can easily switch the image on and off now using the layers, just clicking on the light bulb there. Right, so that makes it a lot easier to work with these things if we can see the lines without the image getting in the way. And then I'll show you another good option with images. Again, selecting the image by clicking on the border. We can fade it, which also makes it much easier when you've got the lines over the top to see things more clearly. Okay, so then you can see, again, I was a little bit off with the scaling, and that's typical. So again, I'm just going to select these lines. This will be good practice for you to select things and get what you need without getting the things that you don't want. So there I'm selecting with windows going left to right. And then again, I'll click move. And I'll start with this back wall, come over to the right and type in the measurement there that's giving me 100, I think should be right. And then keep going to line these columns a bit better. In fact, I'm not going to worry as much about these because you're probably going to demolish these. But yeah, that one can come across 100 and the rest I'll leave. That's enough. Okay, so then I'll get the next plan. I'll give you some time to try all these things in a minute. I just want to get the next sheet, insert it again as a JPEG, and this time we know the scale factor, so I'm just going to type in 100 there. Click OK, and then I can line that up directly above the previous plan. This one I might just fade straight away. So it looks like the one underneath. Okay, so then you can probably all tell that this floor plan is very, very similar to the one we've already done. And this is the brilliant thing about CAD as opposed to drawing by hand. If you've got things that are the same or similar, you can copy them, and that's much quicker than drawing again. So selecting again left to right lets me select the lines without getting the image. Then I'll click back on the Home tab, copy.
Or you can just do Control-C.
You can, but that works a bit differently. So yeah, Control-C will copy, but this one lets you choose a base point, which will make it easier to do this. So yeah, so that's really important. Control-C is good, but that is technically, I'll just show you. So here it's using the clipboard when you use that Control-C shortcut, and that's a slightly different approach to copy than what you get with the copy button that you've got up here. So again, I'll select left to right, then click copy, and here I might zoom into the same corner I did before, the top right of the building, and then coming up to the level above. So you can see there, it lines up fairly well, but it's not exact. So here, I'm just looking at that horizontal line and trying to line it up. And then what should we do to line up this angled wall? Should we move the lines or should we move the image? Exactly the image, because we want our lines to stay lined up. That's right, exactly. So again, I'm going to select the image, go back to the Home tab, click Move, and then zoom right in and just snap that across. So then really, it's going to be an exercise in deleting. So here, I'm going to delete all my tables and chairs that I put in before. You might not have those, but if you do, you can just delete them. I also don't need these columns, so I'll delete those. Then the walls, here, these ones can be deleted, and this line as well. But then the two that I'm left with, I can now just stretch down to touch the bottom. And then if you worked out how to change things to a different layer, so this is the last thing I'll do, and then I'll give you some time to try this. So I want to change these lines to the same layer my walls are on. So I'm just going to click onto them, so they're highlighted, and then up here, choose my walls layer. That easy. So I will show you one last thing. If you've set your line weights in your layers, you can use this button down here to see them. Now, mine maybe aren't heavy enough, so I'm going to go to my layers, and oh, sorry, I haven't set them. So I'm going to go to my walls layer and change that line weight. Have you looked much at line weight yet? When you've been drawing even? Yeah, see about light, medium and heavy lines. And so what have you been using for your heavy lines? Oh, 8, right, wow. 0.8, wow, that's heavy. Gee. Yeah, no, that's okay. I normally only go to about 0.6 for heavy, or even 0.5. But, yep, that's okay. If you're doing it by hand, they are sometimes pretty heavy. So that's okay. But with computer drawings, you generally would use lighter line weights than that. So 0.5 maybe should be about the heaviest you'd need. So that's going to be my heavy. So I've set the walls now to have that line weight. And now, with this button, you can see, just makes the lines easier to see with the heavy line. So if you don't see that little button there for your line weight, you've got to click on the little button with the 3 lines at the end and just make sure line weight is ticked. And then you'll get that button, and it's a great thing to be able to see your line weights as you're drawing. So that's it, and then I'm just continue deleting the things that I don't want. So there, you know, I can fill up these wall lines together, and that's going to give me, I'm amazed actually that I got that angle right. Anyhow, that's good. So yeah, it's going to give me the front wall, and then you come back and add the windows later. But even with that, that's enough to start drawing the section. But I can't help it, I'm just going to show you one last thing. These 2 walls now can be copied across. and I'll use the measurement I can see on the screen and then round it off so it's 6650, might be good. And then I'll just continue deleting things that aren't necessary. And there we are. So that's enough to start off with the next level floor plan. And so I might have to show you how to draw a door today as well. Have you all drawn doors like this with a door swing?
Yeah, not on AutoCAD.
No, you've done them by hand with a compass and or a protractor, whatever you're using. How are you doing it? Oh, you're doing it by hand? Freehand? Oh, God, okay. Yeah, look, you've got to be very good to draw circles and arcs nicely without a compass. You will after some time, but a lot of people do it for their, most of their life and still never get it perfect. Some people can, just naturally, but not most people. Leonardo da Vinci used to do perfect circles and was famous for it, but he's one in a billion probably. So you get some drawing equipment, and compasses and those things are pretty essential. And so once you understand that, it'll be easy then when I show you how to draw it in AutoCAD. So maybe I'll do that afterwards, but I'll give some time to try those things up to that point, so at least try and get the images inserted and set up the first floor floor plan.